If Dodge put a 4-cylinder turbo on a Charger and sold it for a lot cheaper than what you actually see in the current dealers, would you actually buy it? Let's get into it. What is going on, boys and girls, and welcome back to another video. If you guys are rocking with the content, you guys know what to do. Hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up for your boy, and share out the videos. It helps us grow. Well, in a weird turn of events, we might just see a 4-cylinder turbo engine inside a Charger. Now, the new Daytona wasn't a hit. We've talked about that various times here in the channel, and I actually urge you to stay to the end of the video because we're going to share out the specs of this engine, and it's actually very close to happening, and that's a real thing. The Daytona was definitely, it definitely wasn't a hit. It was a bunk with the EV and the speaker in the back bumper, but now Dodge is doing all these new things to kind of bring back or to attract the attentions of old school buyers, by putting back the Hemi into production in August, bringing back the Ram with the Hemi, the Wrangle with the Hemi. Now we know that the 4-door ICE engine inline twin turbocharger, it's coming back. I mean, not coming back, I'm sorry, it's coming into production. And it's going into dealers pretty soon for 2026. It's actually in production. I'm sorry, made two mistakes there. And I call that the modern Grand National. That is the new 2025 for us here, the modern Grand National, because it brings over 500 horsepower, inline 6 twin turbo. But now Dodge just dropped the bombshell news that Stellantis debuts a new 2.0 liter turbocharged engine for the 2026 Grand Cherokee. They actually call it the Hurricane 4. And it might just go into the Charger. Let's get into, we have the article here from CarScoop, and it says Dodge is wildly believed to be working on the kind of Charger we all want, one with a V8 between the shock towers. That's for sure. That's true for sure. The company even rolled out a supercharged Hemi powered Charge Hustle stuffed drag pack at the SEMA show, fanning flames. However, the logic says Dodge is also developing a version that's actually attainable almost for everybody, because the Charger is an expensive vehicle. I'm not gonna lie to you. A Scat Pack, $392, those were pretty expensive vehicle. If you were in a high middle class, you probably couldn't afford it. And if you could, because you have some sort of good credit, or if you had good credit, not some sort, if you had good credit, you were going to pay a lot for that vehicle if you didn't give it the good down payment. But now Dodge is thinking of putting this turbo 4-cylinder, which is going to be debuted on the 2026 Grand Cherokee, and they actually call it Hurricane 4. But why are they doing that? And it says, why is that? Because Stellantis just revealed a brand new 2.0 liter 4-cylinder engine for the 2026 Jeep Grand Cherokee, and confirmed that it will roll out on other vehicles, including a mid-sized truck Ram is working on. But another very obvious home is the engine bay of the new Charger. What are the specs of this Hurricane 4-cylinder engine? They call it the Hurricane 4 Turbo. The new engine cranks out 324 horsepower, 332 feet-pound of torque, and a launch grip and the launch trim off the Grand Cherokee, which makes it far more powerful than the 270 horsepower 295 2.0 liter in the Wrangler. And that might be just start. And it says here that, remember that Mercedes-AMG, after all, squeezed out 400 horsepower on a 2.0 liter 4-cylinder, which is showing the possibilities are there. Now, obviously, this is the picture here. All right, boys, this video is sponsored by CarLock. Let me tell you something. If you're a car guy like me, if you love modding your vehicle and buying those expensive parts, make sure that the first part or that first mod you do to your vehicle is the CarLock real-time GPS system. And I'm going to tell you something right now. You think you're going to take your vehicle somewhere, you're going to park it, you're going to lock the doors and walk away. Well, think again, because around 850,000 vehicles get stolen every year in America. That's about one vehicle every 37 seconds. And the recovery rate is less than 1 out of 3. And with CarLock, you actually get that peace of mind. This is the first mod I have ever done and will ever do to any vehicle I purchase from now on. CarLock has been a sponsor of the channel for quite some time. And let me tell you about some of the benefits that CarLock brings. Tamper and monitoring alerts. If anybody turns on the engine, if anybody moves the vehicle or opens the door or actually disconnect the system, which is the biggest questions everyone gets. What happens when you disconnect the system? Well, you're going to get a motion and you're going to get an alert like the one you see on the screen here. Now, if you want to find out more info on CarLock, if you want a 14-day trial, if you want a discount, make sure you use my codes JaviVibes, and all the links are on the description below. Let's continue. You can see the heads and you can see the turbo. And it says, though Dodge hasn't confirmed any news about the new base model Charger, it badly needs one to do the job handled by the Asian 300 horsepower. I had that engine on my Chrysler 300. That was actually a pretty decent engine. My Chrysler 300, that's called a Pentastar V6. That engine was pretty decent. For a 6-cylinder, it picked up and go. I remember I had like 3 people in the car. I had a Chrysler 300C. If you guys are an old school followers of mine on Instagram, you probably saw the car. And I ran a F-150 Lightning, an old school F-150 Lightning, a friend of mine that had some stuff in the back of the truck, so obviously it was a little heavy. And I beat him by like 2 cars and a half on that Pentastar V6. So it wasn't a bad engine, to be honest. It says the Hemis in the Hellcat might have got all the glory and into most of the Asians, but the V6 massively outsold them, of course, because it was more the obtainable price, being popular with rental fleas and regular income buyers who wanted the style but couldn't stretch the money for the V8. And that's the truth. The base Charger for the 2026, which arrives this year, is a 420 horsepower Hurricane 6 powered RT, which carries an MSRP of $49,000 and is significantly more affordable than the sole surviving EV that starts at $75,000 for the Scat Pack. Dodge dropped the more affordable Daytona RT for the 2026. Now, there's also going to be the Scat Pack, which is going to be the inline 6, which is another inline 6, which is the high output, which brings over 500 horsepower. But the ICE Charger is still out of reach for many fans who remember the entry-level V6 Charger XXT cost less than $37,000 in 2023, and know that you can buy a 2026 Mustang EcoBoost for just over $32,000. We've guessed the Hurricane Turbo Power Charger to reach the 0 to 60 in the low 6-second range, perhaps even quicker. That's plenty for everyday use, though it won't be rewriting any performance records. The upside weight is that the 6-pack is tipping the scale at 4,800 pounds. The 4-cylinder should feel lighter on its feet, braking and turning with more ease. Now, I'll tell you this, though. If it's a strong 2.0 liter with the turbo, you know, us car guys are probably going to tune it, probably going to do some work, and you're probably going to see an 800, 900 horsepower 4-cylinder on a Charger for sure. The only thing that is obviously not going to sound the same. Now, it goes to talk about that back in the 80s, Chrysler's, the 5th generation Charger was a front-wheel drive, subcompact hatch, so it kind of molded into the VW Sirocco, which had a naturally aspirated 1.6 turbocharged to a turbocharged 2.02 liter. It goes to talk about all that, so I don't think that would be actually a bad reference if you actually keep the body style, which you should be, and you actually put a pretty decent size 4-cylinder turbo engine on the Charger for a decent price. I wouldn't see why people shouldn't buy it or why it shouldn't be a hit. I actually support the idea. Anyways, boys and girls, short little fun video here. If you guys are rocking with me, hit the thumbs up and the subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.